Welcome into STB Sports Take, simply the best sports podcast. I'm your host, Sean Bingham. Thank you for joining us. We are on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, everywhere you get your podcasts, we are there. And we're also on TikTok and Instagram, so please be sure to follow us in those spots as well. Share this with friends, spread the love, all the good stuff. You know what I'm talking about. We got a fun show for you today. Going to start immediately with the NBA Cup. The in-season tournament, as it was once called. Now they're kind of shifting more towards the NBA Cup, which is a far better branding job, far better name. I like it. And here's the thing. I was out on the NBA Cup for the first 2 years. This is year 3. The first 2 years, I was pretty out on it. I thought it was lame, thought it was embarrassing, thought it showed that the NBA was declining. And that's all true. But two things can be true. And the second thing that's true is that it is working to bring back some of the tenacity in the regular season that we all miss and loved in the former days of the NBA, right? So Adam Silver has said, I want more games of consequence happening now in the regular season. So the NBA Cup, while it is kind of lame, or as Charles Barkley said, kind of embarrassing that they're having to incentivize these players with more money to get them to play hard, the flip side of that is that it is working. The players clearly care more about these NBA Cup games than they do other regular season games. So I do like it in that regard. Not all change is good. Some people just say, oh, change is good, evolve with the times. That's true. You got to evolve with the times. You got to be willing to change and pivot in your life and grow. But not all change is good. If I change and become a drug addict, that doesn't mean it's good and people around me should just evolve and hey, no, they should want to get away from that and be better with their life in their way, And so not all change is good. That's obviously an extreme example, but I'm trying to illustrate a point here that not all change is good. Some change is bad. The change with the NBA of players carrying less, jacking up more threes, taking nights off, doing the load management, those are all bad changes for the NBA, and it has led to a decline in ratings. The NBA today in 2025 is nothing like it used to be even just 10 years ago in 2015, 2016. F's unanimous MVP year was phenomenal. Go back even further into the Kobe days, even further into the Jordan days, even further into the Magic days. The NBA was better throughout all of those years than it is today. It just was. It was a more entertaining product. It was a more watched product. But the flip side of all of this is that they're trying to fix it in the ways that they can. I think there are more things they can do, but I do like that the NBA Cup is encouraging the players to try that much harder and care that much more. $500,000, I mean, to a lot of these guys, that's a lot of money. Dirk Nowitzki said it last night on the broadcast. For some of these guys on the end of the bench or the staff, that's life-changing money. And he's right, it is. And so I love that they care. The Knicks will not raise a banner. The first team to ever win it was the Lakers with LeBron. They hung the banner, the in-season tournament champs, super lame-looking banner, by the way. Got to change that. Have it say NBA Cup or something, I don't know. Or take it down. You're a team with 17, 18 championships. I don't know if I'd hang a NBA in-season tournament banner. But the Bucks then won the next year, Giannis and the Bucks, and they also hung a banner, NBA Cup champions. This year, the Knicks won it, and they have announced already that they will not be hanging a banner, which I do like that. You don't want to put too much emphasis. I guess I wouldn't really care either way. If you're going to hang a banner, it should be a much smaller, less bragged about or whatever banner than the others. There shouldn't be rings. There needs to be, if we put too much emphasis on it, then there won't be emphasis on the actual NBA title, the NBA Finals. But I do like that it is bringing in some of that tenacity back to the game where they're playing hard. Because once the NBA hits the playoffs, I freaking love it still because the players care so much because every game matters. And so they don't want to sit out. They don't want to rest on defense. They want to play team ball. And during the regular season, it's a lot of one-on-one, jacking up shots, nothing but threes. They shoot a ton of threes in the playoffs as well. But it's less team ball, it feels like, in the regular season. Superstars are sitting out. They're resting on defense. Load management, you get the idea. And the NBA Cup does help for at least a week or two eliminate a lot of that and bring us back to those glory days, if you will. So not all change is good. You do have to always be changing and evolving in life. Doesn't mean that all change is good. Some change is bad. The NBA has had some bad changes, and they're trying to change those changes back, and the NBA Cup, I do think, is helping with that. So I'm actually on board with the NBA Cup. I think they should try and look at what's working there and implement it more for the rest of the season. Maybe there should be big incentives for every player, regardless of your team or your contract, if your team makes the playoffs. Even bigger incentives if you make the second round, the third round, and so on and so forth, and you win the NBA title. And I know there are little bonuses they get, but maybe it should be significant bonuses. And then, then you run into the issue, as I'm just thinking through this out loud in my mind right now, I guess you run into the issue of, are they going to want to stack the super teams to where they're guaranteed these bigger contracts? I don't know. I actually don't mind super teams. I kind of miss them. I kind of miss seeing the dominant Warriors versus the dominant Cavs. Those were some epic finals we got to watch. So I don't mind super teams. I think it's fun when a team comes in and challenges the super team. That makes it even more exciting. But I do think that the NBA should look at what's working with the NBA Cup and say, you know what? We somehow have to replicate this for other parts of the season so that the whole thing matters. They've done little things. These are changes I do like. They've said if you don't play 65 games or more, you can't win any of the awards. So you can't be first team or second team All-NBA, which greatly impacts their contracts. So I love that they did that to kind of cut back on load management. You can't be MVP, can't be Defensive Player of the Year, all that stuff. That was another one that I really, really liked that I do think is working. I think they should keep tying it to money because they're in the entertainment business. You're not going to get Tom Cruise paid big bucks if he's not producing movies. You're not going to have Taylor Swift making big bucks if she's not producing new music or doing new concerts and touring. You get paid on production. Sports is the one thing where these athletes actually can not play at all and get paid the exact same as if they were a superstar. So it's like if you've become a superstar, you're kind of guaranteed this money, whether you play or not. And oftentimes it's load management. It's, oh, my knee is sore, or oh, this or that. And I get it. Health is involved. It's different than Tom Cruise or Taylor Swift for the examples I just used. But what's not different is that they're in the entertainment space. And if you are an entertainer, you should be paid to entertain. And you are not entertaining if you were sitting on the bench or you were sitting at home on the couch. So I think that all of their pay should be heavily tied to their actual production within reason, because you don't want players getting hurt and risking, in some cases, the quality of their life moving forward for decades. I don't want any of that on them. But I do think that, like, hey, if you're injured, you get, I don't know, maybe you get a small deduction in pay if it extends beyond what the team doctor says is reasonable. I don't know. So I'm just thinking out loud. But I do like that the NBA is trying different things to bring back the intensity of the regular season because we're missing it. In fact, Penny Hardaway, let me see if I can pull this up. Penny Hardaway recently said this right here. Here it is. I got it. So he said, over the years, to me, it's just getting worse and worse. Not in a bad way. Now he's trying to like insult the NBA, or not insult, but trying to like say negative things about the NBA that he doesn't like, but then also not be too harsh because he is the NBA. He's a former player, so you got to tread lightly. He's probably got a bunch of friends involved in the NBA. But for me to watch, because I'm in college, I see the fundamentals and playing team ball, and just shooting all the threes now is just a little irritating to me to just watch an NBA game. No one shoots layups anymore. It's fun to watch for fans. No, it's not. Fans don't like all the threes. That's like very well documented and like solidified. The majority of fans do not like all the 3-pointers. The ratings are dropping. That means fans aren't liking the product as much as they used to. But for guys that were pure in the game, it's a little difficult. I agree. I'm not a former NBA star like Penny Hardaway, but I'm a guy who loves sports. And I miss the old NBA. I do. Like I say, not all change is good. Some change is bad. The NBA has made some bad changes. And the Major League Baseball recently made some good changes. It was getting hard to watch these long games, so they put in the pitch clock, and all of a sudden ratings are skyrocketing. So some change is good, some change is bad. I do like that the NBA is trying to bring it back, but this is evidence. Penny Hardaway is a guy, I don't like it, he's saying. So interesting thought there. Sticking in the NBA, Cooper Flagg recently became the youngest player ever to score 40 or more points in a game. Take a look at this list of youngest players and the most points they scored before turning 19. Cooper Flagg on here once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times Cooper Flagg already. We're not even halfway through his rookie season, and he played a year in college. Keep in mind, these other guys you see, LeBron James being the dominant one, of course, and then Dwight Howard and Kobe Bryant at the bottom, they didn't go to college. They came straight out of high school into the NBA. Cooper Flagg went to a year at Duke, and he's now at the top of this list. So this is something I called from before draft night. I said, this guy is the real deal. He can play. He can do it all. He can play at all levels. There is no weakness to his game, and it's showing right now. The Mavs are actually on a little bit of a run. If they can just trade away Anthony Davis, trade away some of their pieces that aren't working, you maybe even just tear it all down to the bottom, tear it down to the studs, trade away Klay Thompson, trade away Anthony Davis, trade away Kyrie Irving, get whatever you can and build around a young 18-year-old Cooper Flagg. The Mavs' future could be very, very bright, but they've got to get rid of some of these old pieces that are taking up all this money and not even producing anything on the court, and build around Cooper Flagg. So very cool for Cooper Flagg on this list with some of the all-time greats, and he's doing it in a year that comes after being in college for a year. So he has fewer chances to do it, although he is really young for his grade growing up kind of thing, but still doing it after a year of college when these guys came straight out of high school and immediately started in the NBA. Shifting over to the NFL, we saw two superstars go down with ACL tears this last Sunday, Patrick Mahomes and Micah Parsons. Look at this list of guys who have had ACL or Achilles, in the case of the bottom two, this year. ACL and Achilles tears: Micah Parsons, Patrick Mahomes, Nick Bosa, Malik Nabers, Tyreek Hill, Tucker Kraft, Zach Ertz, Marshawn Lattimore, Najee Harris, Daniel Jones. These are all stars in the league. Torn ACLs. I swear, I need to try and look it up. It's tough to know for sure. But my mind goes back to, teenage years and up, the last 30 years of watching sports heavily, being deeply involved and caring deeply about sports. I don't remember there being this many ACL and Achilles tears in basketball or football as I've seen over the last few seasons. I just don't. And we're supposed to have better nutritionists, better trainers, better everything, yet all these injuries are on the rise. And all of the rules on top of that are further protecting the players, yet injuries continue to mount higher and higher and higher. So I ask myself, what is it? If the nutrition's better, if the rules protect them more, if the training's better, how on earth do we have more of these injuries? And it's not necessarily just a grass versus turf thing. There's not really much evidence that turf is that much worse. There's a little bit of evidence, but not a ton. A lot of these were on grass. And one thing that pops into my head, again, just spitballing here, I could be totally wrong, but I'm wondering, what are these players taking? What supplements are they taking? What injections might they be taking? Like, what are they putting into their bodies that their body is not liking and maybe weakening in certain areas that's leading to these major injuries? Because something has obviously changed. The only thing I can think is they must be putting something in their body that players in the past were not. Maybe it's a new supplement. Maybe it's I don't know what it is. I have no speculation as to what that might be. So I ask myself, what is going into their bodies that could be different than before, that is somehow weakening their ligaments, their tendons, things like that, while strengthening muscles, strengthening other parts of their performance, but yet weakening these ligaments and these tendons? Because it feels like those are the non-contact injuries appear to be on the rise, and it's greatly affecting the sport. You don't want to see Micah Parsons and Patrick Mahomes go down on the same day. I mean, the Packers' Super Bowl odds just took a huge hit because of this. The Chiefs are already having a down year, but Mahomes is clearly their best player. He's the face of the league. You just don't want this. These are two of the 10 best players offensively and defensively in the whole league, and they both went down with season-ending serious injuries on the same day. It's just a real shame. So, interesting thought. If anybody listening to this or watching this knows what it could be, please comment, because it feels like these injuries are clearly on the rise despite everything being in their favor to keep them safer and healthier. And the only thing that makes logical sense to me is that something is being put into their bodies that is just not responding well when it comes to their ligaments and their tendons and things like that, to create these non-contact injuries and make them more prevalent than ever before. All right, another fun thing I found here. Take a look at this. This is very interesting. The most important position in all of sports, especially in football, we're talking about football here, the most important thing is, of course, your quarterback. The second most important thing, I would argue, is your coach. I've said that repeatedly. Coach and quarterback. Who's the coach? Who's the quarterback? And I'll tell you how good that team may or may not be. Take a look at this list of teams that have the exact same quarterback from last year as they do this year, but they changed their head coach. Look at this. The Patriots, 4-13 last year. Drake May was the quarterback. This year, 11-3. Last year, the Bears, 5-12. Now, 10-4. Last year, the Jags, 4-13. This year, 10-4. Caleb Williams still quarterbacks for the Bears. Trevor Lawrence still quarterbacks for the Jags. Drake May still quarterbacks for the Patriots. The difference is the head coach. Competent coaching wins, just like it says here. I totally agree. When you've got a great coach and a great quarterback working together in tandem for a team, it is very hard for that team to have a losing record. You will rarely see a team with both a great coach and a great quarterback have a losing record. Now, you're not guaranteed a playoff spot, certainly not guaranteed a Super Bowl just by having a great coach and a great quarterback. There are many other positions you got to fill in football. I'm not at all downplaying the other positions to that level. But if you have both a quarterback and a coach that are upper echelon guys, it is very rare that you will have a losing record. Speaking of solid coaches combined with solid quarterbacks not having losing records, the Steelers are looking to yet again avoid a losing record. I said that they would have their first losing record under Mike Tomlin this year. It looks like I'm probably going to be wrong. They're right there on the fringe. We'll see. But Aaron Rodgers having a great year, considering his age anyway, And the other night, they had a good big win over the Miami Dolphins. Tua played horrible. He's now getting benched. In fact, quick side note on that before we get into this Aaron Rodgers quote that I want to talk about. Tua Tagovailoa benched for not Zach Wilson, but Quinn Ewers out of Texas, the rookie. And I kind of like the move, even though I'm a Zach Wilson guy because he's a BYU guy. I like the idea of seeing what Quinn Ewers can do, and I understand the move. You have to see what your young rookie can do. There's 3 games left. They're basically meaningless games. They're relatively pressure-free. Let's see what this young rookie can do. We already know what Zach Wilson is. We know he's a solid backup, maybe a starter in the right situation, but Zach Wilson, for the most part, will very likely be a career backup. Let's see what Quinn Ewers can do. Does this kid have what it takes to play at this level? And I like that the Dolphins are trying it now because they've been eliminated from the playoffs. There's 3 games left. Let's put the rookie in. He's had, a couple of months now to be in the NFL locker rooms with NFL trainers, NFL coaching, in the film room, on the sideline, at practice. Now let's see what he can do in a real game where there's really not much pressure because you know what? This game doesn't matter. Win or lose, it doesn't matter for the team. It might matter for your reputation and your contract and your stability with the team, but that's the only pressure that he'll be feeling. So I like the move by the Dolphins. Let's see what Quinn Ewers can do. And if he does poorly, they've already said that Zach Wilson's the backup and then Tua at number 3. So there's a very high chance that we have seen Tua's last game or last snaps with the Miami Dolphins because I think the chances are pretty high that they cut him and start to look elsewhere for a new quarterback. And they want to see if it's Quinn Ewers or not. I think they also know it's not Zach Wilson. I think they know that Zach Wilson's not the future franchise quarterback, and they feel pretty confident that it's no longer Tua. And so the natural, obvious choice would be, well, let's see if it's this other guy, this rookie. Let's see what he can do in 3 games. If he shows flashes, I bet you he opens up as the starter in week 1 next year. So we'll see what Quinn Ewers can do, but big move by the Dolphins. Anyway, so they are coming off of a loss on Monday Night Football to the Steelers and Aaron Rodgers. And after the game, Aaron Rodgers just pulls the ultimate Aaron Rodgers move. He's at the podium kind of praising his teammates and talking about how we got a bunch of cast-offs on this squad, and he goes through a bunch of players. He's complimenting them. He's meaning it to be a compliment. Keep in mind that this guy was essentially ousted from Green Bay, ousted from New York, and now he's landed in Pittsburgh when really nobody else wanted him. That's just reality. He's an all-time great, one of the 10 greatest quarterbacks of all time, and we all respect that and acknowledge that. But he's also in his 40s, not what he used to be, a little bit difficult to get along with, it appears. And so not a ton of teams were knocking down his door to have him come and be their quarterback. The Steelers were really the only one. So you could very much make the case that he's also a cast-off, but here's the quote, have a listen.
So it's kind of what I said after the game. There's some cast-offs if you look at our roster, which makes it really special. Kenny Gainwell signed a next-to-nothing contract. Connor Hayward, an afterthought, had a touchdown run. Marquez been on a couple teams. Adam Thielen got cut. Samuel was on the street for a long time. So it says a lot about the character of the guys we brought in.
Do you consider yourself one of those cast-offs too?
No, I'm not a cast-off.
No, I'm not a cast-off. Actually, Aaron, you are. You're a superstar. You're a legendary Hall of Famer. But at this stage of your career, you were a cast-off. Green Bay didn't want you. They wanted Jordan Love. New York didn't want you. They wanted anyone else. You are a cast-off. No other teams wanted to sign you. The Steelers just sat and waited. They wanted you. They did want you, just like they wanted those guys, your teammates you just went through. So you are a cast-off. I think he should have leaned into that. I think he should have leaned in and be like, yeah, of course I'm a cast-off. But his pride, his ego wouldn't let him because he's a first-ballot Hall of Famer, which he is. We all acknowledge that. But you're also, 42? So a little bit different for him, I get, but tough to go through all those names, cast off. And then when a reporter asks the obvious question, do you put yourself in that category? He immediately just gets offended almost. No, I'm not a cast off, and kind of ruins the whole line of complimenting he just went through. All right, moving on. Another fun story out of the NFL is who's going to win the Super Bowl this year? The Chiefs have been eliminated from contention, and they've dominated the AFC for years. Joe Burrow and the Bengals are the only team that has reached a Super Bowl other than the Chiefs for a while now, and they've also been eliminated. And they've also been eliminated from contention. Lamar Jackson and the Ravens are looking like it's less likely that they'll make the playoffs. No one really thinks Aaron Rodgers and the Steelers can do it. So the natural thought is this has to be Josh Allen and the Bills' year. And I agree. If you're Josh Allen and the Bills, this is your year to get through the AFC. Take a look at this. Only 6 quarterbacks in the last 22 years have been represented out of the AFC. Tom Brady and a whole bunch. Patrick Mahomes in a whole bunch, Peyton Manning in a few, Roethlisberger in a couple, and then Burrow and Flacco once each. Here's the list year by year. So look at that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for Mahomes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, or not 8 for Brady. And then 1 for Burrow, 1 for Flacco right there, 2012. And then Peyton Manning with 2 with the Broncos and 2 with the Colts, so 4. And then Big Ben 3. So that's pretty wild. Who's it going to be this year? Is it going to be Lamar Jackson? Probably not. Is it going to be Drake May and the Patriots? I just don't think so. Is it going to be Bo Nix and the Broncos? I just don't think so. Those are really, really solid teams. I just think it'll be hard for them to overcome that hump, get over that hump in their first time ever in the playoffs. It's rare. It happens, but it's rare that a young quarterback gets over the hump their first time in the playoffs. So I think Bo Nix and Drake May are the real deal. I think those teams are the real deal. I think next year they're going to be extremely dangerous. I think this year they're dangerous as well, but I just don't know that I see them beating Josh Allen and the Bills in the playoffs. I think the pressure will be at a level where Josh Allen will be able to perform and they will make a mistake or two that they would not have typically made in the regular season. That's my hunch. That's what I think will happen. So my guess is that the Bills will be in the Super Bowl this year out of the AFC. And I'm going to say right now that they'll be facing the Rams and Matthew Stafford. And I think there's a very high likelihood that Stafford and the Rams get their second Super Bowl victory. And that leads me to ask the question, what will that mean for Matthew Stafford and his legacy? If he wins the MVP this year, because he's well on track for that, it's him or Josh Allen, and I personally would give it to Matthew Stafford. In fact, let's pull up their stats live while we're sitting here talking about it. All right, so going by QBR, we'll default it to that first. Matthew Stafford is 4th, Josh Allen is 6th. Let's go now by quarterback rating, or passer rating rather. Stafford number 1, Drake May 3, Josh Allen 4. These are kind of the guys I think are in the hunt for MVP. I'd say are those 3, Drake May, Matthew Stafford, and Josh Allen. I think Stafford is the guy. Let's just go by yards. Stafford at the top of the list for those guys that are actually in the hunt because Dak Prescott's not going to win MVP. He's leading the league, though, in yards. Let's go for touchdowns. Stafford with a huge lead in touchdowns. Only 5 interceptions for Matthew Stafford. Josh Allen has 10 with 25 touchdowns. Massive advantage for Stafford in the touchdown to interception ratio. Now, if we go into rushing yards, obviously Josh Allen's a much bigger threat to run the ball than Stafford is. And here's the thing. A lot of people say that Josh Allen doesn't have a ton of weapons. Yeah, he does. He's got 2 great tight ends. He's got a fantastic running back, one of the top 5 running backs in the league right now. So he has weapons. He doesn't have the same level of weapons that Matthew Stafford has, but he has good weapons. Let's not act like he's got a bunch of scrubs out there. So to me right now, the MVP should be Matthew Stafford. I also think they're favorites to win the Super Bowl. So let's say Matthew Stafford wins the MVP, wins another Super Bowl, and is Super Bowl MVP. Where would that put Matthew Stafford on the all-time list? Because I don't think anybody has had him in their even top 15, 20 quarterbacks all time. But now all of a sudden, with the Rams for a few years, 2 Super Bowls, an MVP, Super Bowl MVPs, all of a sudden, and he continues to rack up stats, because the stats are obviously a big part of the puzzle. Does that put Stafford in the top 10 quarterbacks all time? 2 rings, an MVP? Does it put him ahead of a guy like a Brett Favre, or at least a Dan Marino who doesn't have a ring? I don't know. There's an argument to be had there. It's very interesting because Matthew Stafford was in Detroit for so long, just not getting it done. He gets with a good offensive guru coach in Sean McVay, and all of a sudden, he looks like he could be a true Hall of Fame level guy, because at the end of his career, again, if they win the Super Bowl this year and if he wins MVP, those are going to be 2 massive notches on his belt and tallies in his side of the column to put him in the Hall of Fame and to look at him as a top 15 quarterback of all time. He's not going to be up there. I mean, the upper echelon is, of course, Tom Brady, Joe Montana, Patrick Mahomes, Peyton Manning. Those are your 4 best quarterbacks of all time right there. Then there's a big step down, and there's a lot of good arguments to be made for other guys like a Terry Bradshaw or a Troy Aikman or a John Elway or a Drew Brees, players like that. And I think Stafford would be kind of in the level just below those guys. So there might be the upper 4, then maybe there's 10 more. I think Stafford's right in the mix for that 15th spot. If he can win another ring this year and an MVP, I think you undeniably put him in the top 20 all time. possibly even higher. Yeah, I mean, Stafford right now is 8th all-time in yards passing. He's 7th all-time in passes completed, and he's 9th all-time in touchdown passes. I'm sorry, if you add another Super Bowl ring and an MVP to this already massive resume as far as individual statistics go, giving him 2 rings and an MVP, is he top 10 all time? I think there's a very valid argument for that. Let's go through this list. Let's just look at let's look at this list. This is the all-time leaders in passer rating, and let's just say who's ahead of Matthew Stafford all time right now. If they were to end their careers today, or if their career's already over, and if Stafford ended his career after this season with an MVP and with the Super Bowl, another Super Bowl win, where would he be all time compared to these guys? Aaron Rodgers, he'd still be behind him. Lamar Jackson, I think if they both retired today or at the end of the season, and you give Stafford an MVP and another Super Bowl, I think I'd put Stafford ahead of Lamar. Patrick Mahomes is ahead. Burrow, Stafford would be ahead of him. Russell Wilson, Stafford would be ahead of him. Deshaun Watson, of course, Stafford would be ahead of him. Drew Brees, I think Drew Brees would still have a slight advantage over Stafford. Dak Prescott, for sure, Stafford ahead of him. Garoppolo, lame. Tom Brady, of course, ahead of him. Tony Romo, Stafford would be ahead of him. Kirk Cousins, Jared Goff, Jordan Love, he'd be ahead of all those guys. Steve Young, you start having an argument right there at the Steve Young mark. Who's better all time, Steve Young or Matthew Stafford? Peyton Manning would be ahead of him. Tua, that's laughable. Justin Herbert, Phillip Rivers, Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, Kurt Warner. He'd be ahead of all these guys. He's down there ironically tied with Joe Montana for passer rating. Again, this is just passer rating. There's a ton of different stats. I personally like QBR the best. It's a fairly newer one. I think it tells a better story for the full ability of a quarterback. Time, down, distance, situation. I think it better evaluates all of that than passer rating does. But for the sake of just looking at passer rating and going through, I think you have a very solid argument for Matthew Stafford being a top 10 quarterback all time. If he wins another Super Bowl this year and gets an MVP, very good argument he's top 10 all time. All right, transitioning to college football playoffs. I am hosting the STB Sports Take College Football Playoffs Bracket Challenge on ESPN.com. So go to ESPN.com or the app, search for the College Football Playoffs Bracket Challenge, then search for STB Sports Take. Completely free to join. $200 cash prize minimum, and for every repost that this video gets, whether that's on Instagram or TikTok, if you see this, hit that repost button. For every repost, I will add $1 up to $500. So a maximum of a $500 cash prize, minimum of a $200 cash prize, nothing at all for you to enter. And if you're seeing this, if you're entering the contest, welcome. Hopefully you'll check out some of my other videos. Hit the follow button on TikTok, hit the follow button on Instagram. Would love the support. Battle with me in the comments. Whether you love my takes or hate my takes, hopefully they're entertaining and you like them and you can engage with them in the comments. But hit the follow button. And again, a minimum of a $200 cash prize, maximum of a $500 cash prize. 1 entry per user. May the best man or woman win. So best of luck to everybody that has joined or will join. Thanks for the support. All the details and information you need will be in the description of the video, as well as on the bracket challenge itself. Again, STB Sports Take Bracket Challenge for the college football playoffs on ESPN. All right, that's all the time we have for today, you guys. Thank you for watching. We are on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, TikTok, Instagram. Please follow us across all platforms. I love the support, appreciate the support. I'm loving the engagement from all of you guys on social media. It's super fun to see the comments. It inspires me for new content, better content. So keep the comments, keep the engagement coming, and we'll see you next time. I am out. Peace.